Let us now talk about another very useful function that is built into Python, and that function is called the input function. This function will allow us to type an input on the keyboard, and then that string will be available to us in our code. And this will be very useful because it means we can then write special inputs, and then our code will be able to compute with the inputs that we provide. But I want to warn you that even though the type function tells us that that input itself is a built-in function or method, input is not a mathematical function in the sense that we just spoke about. Remember, one of the things I told you that a mathematical function must do is if we call that function on the same value. So in this case, you can see I'm calling this function on the same string, in quotes, name, colon, and then a space. If I call the same function twice on the same input, I must get the same output if this is a mathematical function. But I'm going to show you that this is not the case. So what happens when you call the input function with a string? Well, the first thing that the input function does is it repeats that string that you just gave me. So I just gave you the string name, colon, and so it will write name, colon. It will print this out on the screen. And then it will put a space here, and then it'll put a little cursor blinking, waiting for you to type something on the keyboard. So let us say at this point I type a name. Let's say I type the name Swara. Now when I press enter, the function will finally return a value. And what value will it return? Well, it will return the string that I just typed. So it returns the string Swara. So on this input, it returned the string Swara. But suppose I call the function on the same input. Once again, it prints that string back to me, and the cursor is blinking, waiting for me to type. This time, let us say I type in the name Azhar. Now when I press enter, I get a different answer. So the input function is not a function in the mathematical sense. On the same input, you can produce different outputs. It depends on what you type. Now, of course, we want to have this feature. If we want to be able to accept different inputs from the user, then we really need this functionality. But this is not a mathematical function. Another way this is not a mathematical function is you can call the input function with no values inside the brackets at all. So this is not allowed in a mathematical function. You have to provide an input that comes from some set. And here we're calling this input function with no arguments at all. Now what happens here? Well, since we did not provide a string, when we press enter, nothing is printed, but once again the little blinking cursor will be there waiting for us to type. So if I type some string like no prompt, that entire string is returned in single quotes. So I also want to use this as an example to show you that you can type in multiple words. We could type in a very long string into the input, and then that very long string will be returned to us as the result of the function call. So it's important to remember that Python's built-in input function is not a mathematical function. It always returns a string, however.